Everybody, it is 12:32 and we are back to our commission meeting, and we have the 4 commissioners with us here in person. So I will check to see if any of our senators representatives came in while we were away. We have Senator Conway, Representative Kloba, Senator Holy, Representative Rude. All right, doesn't look like it. So we are going to pick up where we left off, and before lunch, I said we had 2 things left, but we actually have 4, so apologies for that. We're gonna pick up on tab 6, which is the petition for discussion and possible filing for sports wagering vendor license fees, which is Lisa McLean, the rules coordinator and policy manager.
Thank you. Welcome back. Chair Commissioner Lisa McLean, Legislative and Policy Manager for the record. We're talking about tab 6, which is a staff proposed rulemaking regarding sports wagering fees. In January 2023, the commissioners accepted staff recommendation to initiate rulemaking to reevaluate license fees for sports wagering. Based on our analysis of the costs related to licensing, regulation, and enforcement, the staff is proposing to decrease the major sports wagering vendor fee from $65,000 to $30,000, mid-level from $10,000 to $5,000, ancillary sports wagering vendor from $5,000 to $2,000. Kristen is standing by to answer all of your questions on that, but I will give you some details about the stakeholdering, okay, before passing it over to Kristen and any questions you might have. Again, on February 13th and February 27th, we had 2 separate meetings, one for stakeholders, one for tribal partners, to discuss the draft proposals for the adjusted sports wagering vendor fees. There were a lot of questions about how the fees were calculated, but there were no specific concerns or objections expressed at that time. We did receive, and it is in your packet, a letter from Jeff Ifra, General Counsel for Idea Growth, on February 13th. And then on February 27th, we received a letter from Ernest C. Matthews, the 4th Vice President and General Counsel for ISI Limited. In addition, in just the last couple of days, we got a letter from Chairman Dustin Klatouche from the Confederated Tribes of Chehalis Reservation in support of lowering the sports wagering vendor fees. And we also got a letter from Shoalwater Bay, specifically Michael Rasmussen, CEO of the Willapa Bay Enterprise Corporation, also expressing his support and actually his support for the ISI Limited letter. Okay, would you like me to read those into the record? The 2 letters? No. Okay, so they were distributed to you. They're not in the packet, but we will get them posted. They were both in support of lowering the sports wagering vendor fees. With that, the staff recommends that the commission proceeding to the filing for discussion. Christina, do you have to show a slide?
I have one slide actually that if Julie would like to put it up, that is just a visual of the fee reductions that Lisa referenced. So just so you can visually take a look at the change in those. In analyzing these fees, we looked at, this was a new activity when the fees were originally set. We committed to analyzing the ongoing costs of sports wagering. And after a year of activity, we found that the fees and how they had been set were in excess of what we needed to directly pay for the costs of enforcing the sports wagering vendor licenses. So just to recap, the major license fee is proposed to go down by $35,000. The mid is proposed to be reduced by $5,000, and the ancillary, we are proposing to reduce that fee by $3,000. So that's the only slide I have for sports wagering, so I'm open for questions if there are.
So, and a new applicant for one of those three would pay that initial fee, but then also the full costs of investigation. Can you talk a little bit about?
Yeah, so common to actually all of our licensed applicants, the fee is meant to cover the cost of enforcing and regulating that activity. But in the event that the fee is not sufficient to cover the cost of investigating their application, the licensing unit estimates and asks for a deposit. And if it isn't used in full, a refund is issued. And that would stand for the sports wagering vendors as well.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right, is there any public comment? Next one, nothing online. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to file for further discussion the proposed amended sports wagering vendor license fees.
I'll second it. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Okay, everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it has been moved and seconded and supported. Sorry, been a long day already. All right, we'll go to tab 7 now, which is a petition for discussion and possible filing for wager limits for house bank card games. We have Lisa McLean, the rules coordinator and manager. And with us.
Thank you. So before you in tab 7, we have a rule petition to amend the wagering limits for house bank card rooms submitted by Vicki Christopherson, representing Maverick Gaming in Kirkland, Washington. I'm not going to go over the whole details, but I think we know that it's about increasing the maximum single wager limit from 300 to 500 for all house bank gaming tables. At our February meeting, commissioners directed staff to do additional research. This package has in it the February transcript, so you can see what, to remind ourselves of what that research was. The package also contains a request to how many house bank card rooms have there been over time since 1997. There's a chart in there that shows every single year how many house bank card rooms there have been from 1997 to the present. And in addition, last night, if I think it's posted on the website for the audience, is we added to the website and by sending to email, and then I brought you a paper copy. Number one, a historical overview of the evolution of the commercial stimulant language, which was a question that you all had. And then the second one was the detail of the 2008 discussion of the commission when the debate was about raising the wager limit from 200 to 300. So in there is the rule summary in 2008, in addition to the minutes from the meeting that was discussed. In addition, I should mention that we had some stakeholder meetings in the last month since we met on February 13th as part of our discussion about the fees. We also discussed the wagering limit with stakeholders. There were 48 participants from the gaming industry as well as the nonprofit sector. The consensus was support for wagering limits, for increasing the wagering limits for house bank card rooms. No participant in the meeting was against wagering, increasing it. On February 13th, the staff held a meeting with tribal partners to discuss that same issue. Discussants at that meeting felt $500 was an excessive limit that did not correlate to the definition of commercial stimulant in RCW 946. There was interest in understanding how this provision was applied after initial licensure. We then received an email from Chris O'Murray in support of the petition on February 17th, and we received a letter from Michael D. McKay of K&L Gates on behalf of Maverick, Washington, in support of the petition. Your options are to take final action, to file amended language, that is, make changes during this public meeting, or request staff to continue its research, or withdraw the petition in writing stating the reasons for that and indicating alternative means by which the agency will address the concerns of the petition. I think that's it.
Thank you, Lisa. And just to clarify, on the website, there is additional tab 7A materials and additional tab 7B materials is what she was referring to. That's this packet of information that was added late last night that not everybody may have seen as of yet.
I think that's me. I think I can sit down.
Are there any questions? Comments from the commissioners? Everybody
Just
reading?
a reminder, did staff express concerns about, did staff express concerns about option B? I'm just curious.
Filing amended language?
Mhm.
I don't know that there's concerns.
Staff has not taken a position on any of the options moved
Okay.
forward.
Everybody's trying to go through this.
Yeah.
All this documentation as quickly as they can.
It's right here. We got hard copies too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but we
what-
have to stack this thing. Are those our only four options, or could we push this to the next commission meeting so that we have time to review the materials that we received last night?
Yes, so you're at, the 102 has been filed. You can discuss.
There's no time limit.
There's no
We-
time
we
limit,
can
thank
take
you.
More time to review this, or we can move forward and take final action.
Correct. And that would include continuing this, if you wanted to just move it later into your meeting's agenda, such as later today or potentially into tomorrow, because it's all one meeting.
Okay. So we,
Could move it.
did you just say that we could take this up tomorrow after having the evening to read these?
You can, at your discretion, you can move any agenda item around, so long as
Between
others are
days.
not exactly
Okay.
to the other day.
Which I don't think I'm gonna have time to
Not
look
gonna
at this
have time.
tonight.
Yeah, I've got to go home to a 7th-month-old.
Right. I spent an hour, I mean, I got home last night at 10, half hour last night, an hour this morning, and I'm not through it, so.
Yeah. I would appreciate having more time than just, the next 12 to 24 hours to get through the materials here and sort of research back in the materials that we already have, sort of absorb everything.
That's fine with me. As long as, I mean, does the petitioner, are there any cons associated with that? I wonder.
No. Yeah, I don't, yeah, I guess if
Okay.
that's, everybody feels, it was a lot of information that came in.
Yeah.
All at once. So, okay, so I guess do we need to vote on moving it to next month then, or we just move it?
Yes, I don't know that a strict vote is necessary. You are welcome to do so if you would like to formally sort of ask staff to move this to next month's meeting for your consideration then. Or you could just simply ask staff here.
We'll just ask staff. So, yes, we'll move this to next month. I know everybody's waiting, but we did have a lot more information that I think is really important to this. So, yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. So we will continue on to tab 8, which is the petition for discussion and possible filing for debit card rules. That is Lisa McLean. And welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. We're at tab 8, a rule petition to amend. The petition was submitted in April 2022, and it was proposing to amend WAC 230-15150 about selling and redeeming chips to allow chips to be sold using debit cards. In May 2022, the commission agreed to initiate rulemaking, and at the time that they made that decision, staff noted that other rules in addition to WAC 23015 needed to be amended. We come to you today with some draft language for amending rules, and in addition to that, adding new rules. I'm not sure if I need to go through all of this, of the bullets here. It's basically classifies the debit card reading devices as a gambling equipment, defines debit card, describes procedures regarding how debit cards can be used to purchase chips on house bank card games, describes technical controls related to debit card reading devices on house bank card games, updates language on authorized payment methods for gambling to include debit cards, updates language on how chips may be sold at the house bank gaming tables, clarifies payment methods utilizing checks for non-house bank card gaming tables, requires surveillance coverage for debit card reading devices at gaming tables, updates language on how table inventory is accounted for, clarifies what items are placed in the drop boxes to include debit transaction receipts, and updates language related to soft count procedures, which include debit card transaction receipts. And that's it. As you can see, it's a lot more than just one WAC we've had to change. On September 28, 2022, there was a stakeholder meeting to discuss this petition. There were 14 participants from the gaming industry. The consensus was support for the petition. No participant was against the petition. On September 28th, staff held a meeting with tribal partners to discuss this issue among two other petitions. No comments were noted, significant comments. On September 29th, staff did receive an email from Paul Milburn. It was not clear what his affiliation was. He was against the petition to authorize debit cards to purchase gaming chips, arguing that it was going to speed up the game and therefore with the existing system, one is allowed a brief moment of reflection during the process. Reducing that threshold of effort to taps on a screen would be a small convenience with potentially a massive cost for problem gamblers lost in the moment. The policy considerations are that pursuant to RCW 946-070, subsection 11, the commission does have the power and authority to establish the type, scope of, and manner of conducting gambling activities authorized by this chapter, including but not limited to the extent of a wager, money, or thing of value which may be wagered or contributed or won by a player. Since the last time we brought this to you, staff had reached out to the Evergreen Council on Problem Gambling, asking them for feedback of further resources to determine the impacts of problem gambling should the purchase of playing chips at gaming table be allowed. Evergreen was not aware of any research on the specific device. However, referenced studies on the correlation between speed of play and problem gambling. And they also noted that having access to an ATM at the table allows players to continue to play without a break to have to go to the cage, and thereby increases the speed of play. Your options on this one are, again, to file the draft language for further discussion, request staff to continue to work on draft language, file amended language, i.e. make changes to what we've proposed here, or withdraw the notice of rulemaking and state any reasons for that. Are there any questions of me, or actually of our subject matter expert?
One. So looking at the materials and the WACs that they wish to amend, I'm reading through them. So the first one was 230-15-150, selling and redeeming chips. And I've looked at it several times. I can't see a strike through or an underline what the change is in that WAC that the petitioner's proposing.
Because if you first in the packet is first the WAC as it stands today, and later on is a an indication of the selling and redeeming of chips, is what's proposed for changes. Just, I might show you that piece of paper from the
Okay.
package. So it wasn't.
So I have that in.
Yeah, we
somewhere.
were
Oh,
trying to show you what was there right now and what it is. Just subject matter expert can go into more detail, but it required that we then had to define what a debit card was. We had to define it as a piece of gambling equipment. And then in addition, so it got kind of complicated. We were trying to lay out, how do you read it now? And those are we put the amended, and after we put amended, we showed you which new rules we want to introduce.
Okay, yeah, it just wasn't clear from the way the materials were that. Thank you.
Commissioner Patterson, do you have, sorry.
So essentially what we're talking about is changing it so that when you run out, you no longer have to go over to an ATM machine and get more. Instead, you can just sit there at the table and take care of that transaction seamlessly while you're gambling. And the petitioner's reasons for wanting to do that were what again? Could you explain them again?
The petitioner feels this change is needed because Light and Wonder has a new product called AToM that allows players to pay for chips using a debit card without leaving the table. The effect of this rule change would be to the ability to purchase chips. We know that. Just a minute. Allowing debit transactions at tables may allow for more control over cash withdrawals. In Nevada, operators can set daily limits on the amount of cash patrons are allowed to withdraw from their accounts. Those limits are set for each patron and require a 24-hour waiting period prior to any change to their limits. Currently, any limits on ATM withdrawals would be imposed by a patron's bank. In addition to responsible gaming message is displayed. In addition, a responsible gaming message is displayed either near the system or on a printed item given to the patron.
Petitioner may be on the
Yeah.
line. and may be able to
Okay.
add more information.
Thank you, sorry.
I'd like to hear more about how the proposed rule change would result in there being more control over what their customers spend. Is that what they're saying there?
I think the petitioner is the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
petitioner's Light and Wonder, and it's Light and Wonder's machine. So they're petitioning for a rule change
Right.
for their system.
Is someone from Light and Wonder here?
We do, there's a hand up.
Oh,
Is that Light and Wonder, that person?
That is our subject matter expert, Bill McGregor.
Okay.
I do see a hand up. Just give us a second here. Michael?
Michael Pizzo. Yes, and he is from Light and Wonder.
Okay, Michael Vizo.
Yeah.
It's here from Light.
He just needs to unmute himself.
Michael, can you unmute yourself? Great, okay.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Vizo, Senior Product Manager with Light and Wonder, and I am happy to answer any questions the Commission has on this product.
Hi, Michael. I'm Commissioner Patterson. I just need to better understand what the benefits are from your point of view of when one of your customers runs out of money. They no longer have to get up from their seat and go over to the ATM to get more. What the benefit is for them just to sit in place and be able to continue to play.
Right. So in addition to one of the benefits is that we can set limits based on regulatory guidance to prevent problem gambling. So we can set lower thresholds than what be made available on ATM. Not only can we set lower transaction limits, we can set time interval limits. And then we can also set daily limits, and all of this will be applied directly at the table, and could limit the player from exceeding funds that they don't have.
And how would you know when and to whom you should do that to?
This would all be preset based on guidance from the commission. What limits and thresholds that we would allow a patron to make those transactions using our product.
I didn't understand your answer completely. How would you determine when you should limit a particular person from spending more money? How would you make that decision?
Well, we would set the thresholds in the system. We couldn't make a.
So,
I'm sorry.
No, I interrupted. Go ahead.
We wouldn't be able to set a limit on an individual player, but we can set limits that would apply to any transaction made at the table using our device.
Okay, now I understand better. And can you do that now?
Yes, we can.
You can do that now without this rule change.
Well, we can set the limits based on the standards set by the commission. That's being, I believe there's a rule, a daily limit that we're proposing, and we can set those limits daily and single transaction limits using our system.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a comment when we're done with testimony about this.
Okay.
So I don't know. If
I think we're.
So a question, I guess. And this may be to staff, but would this be gambling equipment?
Yes, it would be gambling equipment, I think, and we actually, part of the rule changes is changing the definition of gambling equipment to add a number 8 for debit card reading devices.
Okay, and have we brought one of the, have we already had one of these torn apart and I mean, I'm being a little literal here, but have we done some evaluation of these?
Yes, we have. So the petition came before you in April of 2022, and then we reached out to the manufacturer. One was delivered to our gaming lab for evaluation, just in terms of how it operates in relation to the rule petition. As outlined in 230, I believe it's 230:17. I don't have the chapter before us. So we have not approved it. It is just an evaluation. So if the rule goes into effect, then before any equipment could be used, it would have to go through the process and peer review and approval outlined in 230:06:050.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, can I ask, we do have our subject matter expert, staff subject matter expert. He's had his hand up a couple of times. I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I'm sorry.
We might want to invite him to round off any of the comments that I've made or anybody else has made.
Yes, please. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand raised.
Oh, that's okay. Special Agent Supervisor Bill McGregor with the Gambling Commission out of Spokane. I was just going to comment, you had asked one question about whether or not they can do that limit now. This equipment obviously is not in play currently, so the answer to your question is that's no, because it's not equipment that's authorized right now. Their equipment that we have in the lab does have the ability to set limits, And in the rules, you will see that staff has proposed some limits, daily limits on the amount that a patron would be allowed to withdraw at the table using that card. And the other important thing is yes, right now debit cards are allowed to pay for gambling, but right now they do go to the cage as noted versus staying at the table to make that transaction. So the change is more that, and then yes, we would make it gambling equipment as Director Griffin noted.
What was the limit that staff was going to recommend? Have you gotten that far?
$500 for a single transaction and $2,500 within the 24-hour period.
2,500 per day.
But you certainly could change that also.
I do like the idea, lessening the amount of cash.
Yeah.
Potentially, but are there any more questions or?
Just have one more, right? Because maybe I haven't seen it yet, but are we proposing, it looks optional to have, what is it? 230-15-506. We're kind of giving them an option to conspicuously display on or at the gaming device or game or on a printed item to the patron. To me, I think I'd like printed item given to the patron. So obviously they're going to get a receipt of their debit transaction. And I would like to see a responsible gaming message or a helpline information on that. And I guess, so then I'll ask the vendor whether that's possible.
Yes, Commissioner, that is possible. We currently do that on all of our devices that are deployed in other jurisdictions. It's at the bottom of the receipt on the transaction that the patron will receive.
Okay, so I guess for me, I would like it, and so on the device or in the area and on the printed receipt if we go forward.
Any other commissioner? I see we have some from the public, but I'm wearing questions.
Yeah, I think I have a question. So this goes to the speed of play issue. Given that this machine does essentially work like an ATM, when you go to an ATM, you have to, confirm the amount. You have to kind of push buttons through screens. Would it be possible to actually have it so that you enter the amount and then there's like the next screen that comes up is the problem gambling screen? To kind of make them take a pause. And if they do say like, yes, I need help, and they don't get their money, they just get a receipt that's like, here's the number for problem. I don't know. Spitballing here. So, is that something that it can do or could be done?
At the moment, it's not built in to the system like that, but there are confirmation steps that the patron would have to validate the transaction and the amount. And then on the actual handheld itself, it does display the problem gambling information.
Yeah.
And but it won't prevent them from making the transactions. There's no option to select that they're having problems and need to cancel the transaction. That would be done after or prior to confirming the amount that they're trying to purchase, amount of chips they're trying to purchase.
Is there a way for us to see this machine like next month or the month after so we can see what those receipts and all that stuff look like, or is that not necessarily
Absolutely. I don't know if any of the commission will be attending the Indian Gaming show down in San Diego at the end of this month. We'll have the product on display there. Or if it pleases you, I can take some pictures of some receipts and vouchers and present that to the commission for review.
Okay, thank you. And Commissioner Patterson, you had comments?
Well, I have an uneasy feeling. I'll say that. Because there is a direct correlation between speed of play and problem gambling. And what we're doing here is speeding up play. And there's a psychological phenomenon whereby you decide that you're going to gamble a certain amount of money. And you sit down and it's gone. So in order to get more, you have to get up out of your seat and leave it's a very stimulating environment. You have to walk away from it, walk across the room and go to the ATM machine and confront your bank and ask for more money and then return. And a lot of times that gives people, especially people who have problems or addictive inclinations, to rethink how much money they want to spend. And so what this would do it would take away that opportunity for a break to legitimately assess that. It almost feels like we're moving toward a cashless transaction here. I think people should have the opportunity to take a break. And it's easy to get caught up. It's exciting and fun. And it can be devastating to people who have addiction. So I'm really uneasy. Just want to let you all know.
Yes, Commissioner Sandman?
So I have one more point, and then I do see you
Yeah.
have a hand up there as well. And I guess I'd be curious from maybe to hear from operators when we get to that point about, and hopefully if there's any testimony they can answer, like what happens now? So again, it's a card room. Generally, they're not that large. So ATM machine is probably not that far away and probably adjacent to a gambling activity. So I'm curious what happens now. Somebody is at a table and needs to go to the ATM. Well, yeah, and needs to go to the ATM to get some money. Do they forfeit their seat? How many hands do they miss while they're gone? And in this circumstance, using the AToM, I assume play goes on while that individual is trying to get some cash. So what's the kind of difference between using the at table versus walking, 30 or 50 feet away? And then also maybe just to hear about how often you would anticipate that someone would initiate their gaming at a table by using the ATM machine. So they have $50 on them. They want to get $500 in chips. So they're not going to go to the cage if they can go directly to the table when they initiate their gaming. So I understand some trepidation. I share that, but I think there might not be much difference between walking to it. I don't know there is some, but so those are just some thoughts. Hopefully somebody can clarify that when we get to that point.
All right, so any other thoughts from the commissioners right now, or open it up to public comment maybe? All right, well, I see a hand raised and it looks like Tana Russell.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't see that very well. So if you're there,
She's muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
yes.
Excellent. Hi, thank you for this discussion. I just thought I'd throw in something else for your consideration, and I apologize, I don't have the research studies in front of me, but I was just reading through them within the last few weeks, couple months, about self-imposed limit setting devices and tools versus agency-imposed limit setting devices and tools. There is some evidence that suggests that setting limits is helpful for players in terms of a responsible gaming resource and tool. There are certain circumstances where it seems to have backfired in terms of increasing risk. Some of those include that agencies may set limits higher than what players tend to set for themselves. So an agency may set a limit for $100 or $500, but a player, if given the opportunity to set it for themselves, might set it at $20 or $50. There's also some consideration in terms of just how the tool displays options for limit setting to a player, if it sorts them in order of highest to lowest. And so the player sees the highest limit option first. They just happen to see it first. That also can increase risks for the player in terms of spending more than they can afford just because of the way it was shown to them.
Tana, did you say who you represent? I don't know.
Oh, my apologies. I am so sorry. Tana Russell, Assistant Director with the Evergreen Council on Problem Gambling and a certified gambling counselor
Great, thank you.
and gambling disorder trainer.
Thank you. All right. Are there any other public comments? Anybody? I don't see any more hands up. All right, anything else from the commissioners? Ready to make a motion?
So before we make the motion, Bud, did you ask staff to bring back information when you were talking? Did you ask for specific information? And I'm just curious if my colleagues are asking for information. Commissioner Lawson, you wanted to know about a problem gambling screen popping up.
Yeah, I just was sort of
Yeah,
an idea that I had.
Yeah.
I think that, I can't remember, has commission staff already been able to evaluate this or going to at IGA?
No, so staff has already evaluated it and the rules before you, the rules before you are a result of the evaluation.
Okay. Got it.
And so I only have in my notes that if it moves forward, 15506 sub 10 changed the or to an and from Commissioner Sizemore. And my notes also indicated that Commissioner Lawson asked a question about the problem gambling screen, but the licensee indicated that it was not currently able to be programmed. So I don't have any other to-dos at this point.
Right.
I just wanted to say, Madam Chair, because of my experience over the last 3 years on the problem gambling task force, I feel very uncomfortable about this. It feels like we're moving toward a cashless transaction system here. And I know that break is sometimes life-saving for people who have addiction. So I just wanted to let you know that I probably am not interested in moving forward.
I understand that completely. I mean, for me, I would be ready to move forward to file a draft language for further discussion and then hope that we can get some of the public comments. Someone could come back to us with some of that information perhaps and just find out if there's a difference, or I don't know if there's any way to really, but so we can continue discussions. And
I would support further discussion, but don't want to hide my concerns.
Anybody else? Make a motion if somebody's ready.
So I,
Sorry, Commissioner, just before you make a motion, if there are any changes to the language you would like to see before it is filed, it would be good to include that in the motion,
Oh,
not to
that's
compliment.
what I was gonna try to do for the one item that I have. It's what I can identify at this point. So I would move to file the amended draft language for further discussion, with the amendment being in the WAC 230-15-506 sub 10, which on my version, I guess it would be probably the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sixth line of sub 10, the or at the end of following game, comma, and change or to and on a printed item given to the patron.
I second that. And we'll ask that there's further opportunities to amend, of course, right?
Yes, after filing the CR 102, you can certainly go back and make changes and either refile the CR 102 if those changes have significant differences from your previously filed language.
I'll support the amendment.
okay, so it's been moved and seconded with the amendment. Is there any further discussion?
I think we need to vote on the amendment.
No, it's
The
moved with
motion's
the
to
amendment.
file with the amended.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So we're moving it forward for the purposes of further discussion, essentially.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right, the motion passes. We will now move to tab 9, which is the final tab of the day, which is petition to initiate rulemaking for a progressive jackpot. Lisa McLean back with us.
All right, it's the last time I'm gonna be here today. Today, I'll be back tomorrow. Yes, we're talking about tab number 9. In February, we received a petition from Tiffany Cox, representing Galaxy Gaming of Las Vegas, Nevada, who was proposing to amend WAC 230-15-685, subsection 4, subsection B, to allow house bank card room licensees to connect more than one aggressive jackpot on different card games. Currently, the rule only allows licensees to connect a progressive jackpot on different card games. So they're asking to connect more than one to different card games. The petitioner feels this change is needed for several reasons. The WAC already allows licensees to connect multiple progressive jackpots when offered on the same game. The proposed amendment would agree with what already is authorized in subsection 4, which is to have multiple progressive jackpots on, it would expand from same game to different games. The WAC 230-15-685-4B already establishes requirements for connected progressive jackpots on different games. If a licensee connected more than one progressive jackpot to different card games, they would still need to ensure each jackpot had the same probability of winning the jackpot in the same winning hand. Many approved, the limits on the game operators, the other reason why this is needed is that many approved, according to the petitioner, many approved house bank card rooms offer multiple progressive jackpots. However, operators are limited to utilizing only one progressive jackpot when they want to connect jackpots across different games. This limits the game operators can offer to their customers. The petitioner feels that the effect of this rule change will enable operators to offer and connect more than one jackpot per table across different card games in the same fashion as is currently allowed across the same card games. Policy considerations. The current language of this rule became effective in November 2015 when the commission authorized progressive jackpots on different card games on multiple tables. At that time, there was no specific policy discussion on the issue raised by the current petition. When the WAC provision was amended in 2021, again, there was no specific policy concerns raised. From a regulatory standpoint, the commission already has approved record-keeping processes for progressive jackpots that this petition would not alter in any way. Under the requirements of the Administrative Procedure Act, the commission must take action on a petition within 60 days of receiving it. Staff recommends initiating rulemaking on the petition for further discussion. Because this is a complicated issue, I want to emphasize that we have both the petitioner here and also a subject matter expert, should you have any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Does anybody have any questions?
Sorry.
Any questions from any of the commissioners right now? And I guess I have a question maybe from our subject matter expert. Like having trouble following what this means in plain language, like what's gonna happen if I'm in a casino? How is it gonna look? What's gonna be different?
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Steve Spikowski. I'm Director of Product Development at Galaxy Gaming. Essentially what this rule change would offer is, so currently as an example, if we had a game type, just say a Pai Gow game of ours, and we can have multiple tables connected with multiple jackpots on each table. So those same, say 2 jackpots would go across more than one table without any issues, as is currently allowed in the rules. What we also have now is, say, a different Pai Gow variant where there are some rule changes, but the parts that make up the probability of the game, say the number of cards, which cards are used for the evaluation, do not change. So because of that, we can connect different game types as is currently allowed, as long as they have the same probability and the same winning hand. And it's already allowed for one progressive. So what we're proposing is, if it's already allowed for one, that same requirement of having the same probability, same hand, would just continue to extend to multiple jackpots. We wouldn't change the rules in any way. It's just being able to offer 2 as is currently allowed with the same. And for instance, if let's say in the same scenario, you had one Pai Gow game with 2, you can have that variant Pai Gow game next to it with the same 2, and it will work fine. You just can't connect them together. And that's what we're just saying is we are requesting that we can connect them together because they follow the same rules, whether they're same games or different, because of the probabilities.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful for me. Does anyone have any other questions, commissioners? You know. All right, is there anything else that the petitioner wanted to speak about, or? No. All right, is there any public comments?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, staff, Victor Mena with the Last Frontier New Phoenix. The explanation is very confusing of what was asked. I guess in its simplest terms, the 2 Pai Gow games that he's describing, one is called exposed, where the dealer's hand is exposed to all the players, and you're dealt the same 7 cards at the table. The other game is not exposed. The dealer's hands are concealed. You still get the same 7 cards. The progressive jackpot is played off of your 7 cards dealt. Right now, we can't put the same jackpot on those 2 games in the same property because they're considered different games. The probability of the jackpot, though, is identical to the player, so there's no change to the player's outcome on the hand because you're still playing with the same 7 cards. So the probability of what the payouts are identical. And that's what this is trying to codify, is to be able to do that exact thing. Could this pass over on multiple different games? It could, as long as the cards dealt are the same to the player and the outcome is the same on the same cards. Okay, and that's all this is. And if you have any questions.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Appreciate it. Any other public comments?
Can make a motion.
All
I have
right.
a quick question to staff first.
Yep.
Is there a need to have like a limited number of these jackpots? I mean, can it be 10 or 12 or do we have any limitations on the same table, how many jackpots it can be? And I'm asking, just not being a player, like, is there a need for, or should it be any consideration of ours?
I think that right now they can have I think right now they have, oh, yay, Bill McGregor, our phone a friend, our in-house subject matter expert.
Stretched long enough.
A hand to be raised, and it will be up to Chair if she would like to refer to Bill McGregor.
Yes, please go ahead. Bill.
So a little bit of correction what Victor just said. So we already allow a jackpot to be connected on multiple tables as long as the probability of winning the hand is the same. What this petition is doing is right now it is limited, so you can only connect one jackpot between tables. In recent history, when we removed the number of games that could be played on a game, what happened is we started getting games with multiple jackpots being offered. The most common that I've heard or seen is they offer a $1 jackpot and a $5 jackpot. And so right now, under the rules, they could only connect that $1 jackpot or one of those jackpots, the 1 or the 5, between tables. This amendment would allow them to connect both the $1 and the $5 jackpot between those tables. So all it is removing the limit of 1. Back when this rule was written, typically we only had 1 jackpot on a table. We now have multiple jackpots available on a table, and so they want to be able to link if you link the 2 tables together for the jackpot, it makes sense to link both the $1 and the $5 jackpot, or both jackpots on the table. So that's what this rule is really addressing or fixing, allowing them to link more than 1 jackpot on a table. Hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you. Ish.
Well, Sue, Bill, maybe you can answer, I think there was a component of Commissioner Sizemore's question that maybe you could help answer, and that is, are you familiar with how many jackpots are currently offered on games? Aren't there up to, I mean, it's whatever the market will bear, I think, at this point, but I think on the same game, aren't there like 2 or 3 currently on the same game?
So there's no limit in WAC anymore on the number of games that can be played. And so there is none. maybe the manufacturer has some information on games that they're offering in Washington. I'm familiar with most of them having 2 now, but there is no limit, so I can't say that there is no games that have more than 2. There could be games that have 3 jackpots being offered. Steve, maybe you have something in your games that you're aware of.
So specifically for us in Galaxy, we've sort of written into our approvals the 2 jackpots. That's just something that we wrote in. I know there's not a restriction anymore, and I think that could change. But I think what we've kind of talked about is sort of the table can only accommodate so many sensors with these progressives are typically played with sensors placed onto the table itself. That's a piece of hardware. There's only so much room and probably only so many spots that a player can play on. I don't know that there will be a time soon where there'll be 10 spots per, but yeah, it can certainly grow to say, from 2 to maybe 3 or 4, but I don't think it would get out of hand right now, though, to Bill's point, 2 is all we see from our end as far as progressives.
Okay, so I guess, I mean, for me, if staff feels like we should limit it, I think we could talk about that down the road, but so if this is move forward.
Yes, and this is just to initiate rulemaking, so this would just start the process. We'll say with progressive jackpots, that money has to be tracked. So there are significant requirements and regulations already around that, which is unlike, I think it's referred to now as house jackpots, which that is the owner's money, and there are no requirements for tracking that, which different topic.
All right.
Madam Chair, I move to initiate rulemaking for further discussion.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, motion passes. And that concludes today's public meeting at 1:34 p.m. Thank you for your participation. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. in the same place. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.